Okay.
Springs.
Okay, Pastor, can you start speaking? We need to make sure we can hear you.
We are Chicago's progressive
Good morning. We are glad to be here today. Nothing like
now your WCPT 820 weather update.
And to be
Here's the latest.
All right, everyone's coming in loud and clear.
Okay,
We'll see
great.
periods of rain showers
We are
for
good.
today with cloudy skies, a high into the mid 40s. Southeast winds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Tonight, a good chance for rain showers, cloudy and low near 36. Thursday, a slight chance for snow here late. Partial sunshine develops, a high around 37. Then on Friday, a chance for snow, cloudy, a high of 32.
How much time do we have?
Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Vuchitsky. Currently, it's 38.
Tom Hartman.
If we burn all the known reserves of fossil
Henry,
fuel
how
in the
much
world,
time do we have,
push
hon?
beyond 4 degrees.
Real quick, I just have to do some math.
Okay, thank you.
When I had time.
What time? Just tell me what time we're coming
Figure
out.
out how to get carbon out of the atmosphere, and there are some good technologies for
Are we
that.
coming
If
up
we
at
can go
6:08
from
or
Wright brothers to
6:07
putting a man on
and
the moon in
change?
66 years, we should be able to figure.
One moment, I just have to count up all the time because it doesn't it displays the time that it normally would be, which is 6:05:50. So I just have to
Matter.
You added 3 minutes to that?
Hi, this is Patty.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
So
thank you.
At home for the last year, but it seems like we never have enough time to talk. And since I've been doing the traffic report, I realize how long it actually takes to drive it home. So as we head into the holiday season, I want to spend more time with you, and we've decided to add an hour to the show every day. Thanks to my sponsors, Kids Above All, European and U.S. Auto Body, and Monaco Brewing for making this all possible, and of course my WCPT family. And I couldn't do this without you. So tune in every day, 5 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Chicago Heal. I believe in the vaccine.
I'm just be honest here. I was not a believer in vaccines, but I went ahead and got the vaccine, the J&J, back in April because I was worried about the people around me.
Yeah. I have
Yeah.
no hesitancy about the vaccine. I mean, you know why?
Why?
I've seen all these white people taking it. Tune in to Chicago Heal.
we got 4 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much.
WCPT.
Sunday mornings.
There'll be some information that you can use, information that will empower, and of course, maybe a little bit of along the way and some entertainment. I think sometimes getting funnier. Having a 7-year-old daughter is very humbling, by the way. My boys, they don't want to be bothered. They don't want the dad smoke, whatever, just get away from us. My daughter, however, she challenges me. I've been working on some of my routine, and she just hasn't been feeling it.
Sunday mornings with Brandon Johnson at 9 on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, looking for a winning team on a winning station? You found it right here on WCPT 820 AM. Join the marvelous one, Dan Marver, the fallacious one, Paul Shivari, Sports on the Couches, Mike Mercado, and yours truly, Devin Tingle, every Sunday at 9 p.m. for the Sports Cubicle, where the inmates run the asylum. And the boss, well, they yell at us on Monday morning because we're working overtime. Looking for your late night dose of sports talk radio? We're here. Join us on the Sports Cubicle, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. The family meeting.
There's a practical use to social media. And I know it's hard to watch some of the garbage that comes across, the silly videos, and you don't want everybody to tell you every little thing they're doing. And I don't care about your you eating the pizza. I don't care about that.
It's still different than opening up a newspaper or a magazine and going, well, that article I'm not interested in. That article I'm not interested in. I'm interested in
it. Or thumbs down, whatever you do to it, so it doesn't show up anymore.
Same thing.
But it's also an opportunity for you to spread the word, right?
Tune into the family meeting Sundays at 4.
The Hal Sparks radio program.
This is the week that Steve Bannon perp walked. Do you have a round of applause?
I do.
I'll call them up. It'll take. That's not it. No, that's the sound of people seeing the spot on his forehead when he walks into the chair. That's not it either. That's the wrong one. That's the owning the libs. Yeah, he did, didn't he? He was wearing makeup.
Hal Sparks, Saturdays from 11.
We got 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Attention. Per the current government mandate, U.S.-based insurers are now required to cover at-home COVID testing kits every month with no out-of-pocket fees to you. If you have a current insurance plan, you are eligible to receive up to 8 COVID-19 tests shipped to your home or business each month absolutely free. Just visit testkitforfree.com to begin the registration process. When completed, Tiero Health, a trusted source for next-generation healthcare, will submit a claim to your insurance insurance provider. There is no deductible and no copay. Your 8 monthly tests will ship directly to your home or business for free. Go to testkitforfree.com. COVID-19 and its variants are still here, so take the worry out of searching for time-sensitive tests by registering you and your family today. Visit testkitforfree.com to register from the comfort of your own home. That's testkit for free.
60 seconds.
Receive 8 COVID-19 tests shipped to you at no cost. Just visit testkitforfree.com today. Paid for by TRO Health.
A frog in boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in cool water and slowly heat it up. That frog will boil. As veterans, we tell ourselves the lie that we can handle anything. We let the water boil. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor. Blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Services Administration.
Got it. Thank you.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It is Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. I'm coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Please call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I want to hear your voices. I'm so glad that I've been hearing so many of you and so many different voices. Lately, it means so much to me to hear your voices. And I want to know what you think about the Respect for Men. What do you think about what's happening with Brittany Griner? You know, we typically applaud when Americans are able to come home. We're excited. But Brittany Griner's gotten a lot of pushback. What do you think that is? Is it because we want Paul Whelan back? We do. But his case, as we begin to examine it, is very complicated. Is it because she is just an athlete? Although she has got, I wish you tried to take her on the basketball court, you would lose. She's one of the best in the world at what she does. Is it because she's black? Is it because she's a black woman? Is it because she's a black gay woman? Is it simply because she's gay? Talk to me. Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. That is what we'll be dealing with on the legal Q&A panel with CK at 7 o'clock. But first, we're going to talk about Julian Assange at the bottom of the hour. There are growing pressures on the president to release him. People are saying that, look, being a whistleblower should not be a crime. What do you think about that? Were it not for the whistleblowers, we probably would still be in the Vietnam War. Thank you, Daniel Ellsberg. It's the people who step in and reveal the bad things that are going on. That's how we kick this ball down the road. So let's talk about that, because now more and more and more, President Biden is being pushed to free Julian Assange. What do you think? Should that happen? Call me at 773-763-9278. Should we continue to punish whistleblowers? Should we? How will you ever find out what's going on if you don't have whistleblowers? Think about that. In Chicago, we're going to have a high today of 44 degrees, but it will be rainy. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, 39 degrees will be the high. There will be rain and snow. FIFA, yes, France and Morocco will be playing this afternoon. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. Argentina, they've made the finals, the first tier finals. They beat Croatia 3-0 yesterday. But this is an historic game. Of course, France has been a colonial power involved in Morocco. And how ironic, Morocco is the first African nation to make it this far in the World Cup of the soccer. This is the World Series of soccer, everybody. I mean, and it's truly the world. So what's going to happen this afternoon? Who you got, France or Morocco? I'm pulling for Morocco. I am. In the NBA, the Knicks will be playing the Bulls tonight, and the Timberwolves will be facing off against the Clippers. In the NHL, the Capitals 7, Chicago's team 3, and the Red Wings will be playing the Wild tonight. The Biden administration is facing a December deadline to terminate a public health authority known as Title 42 that was invoked at the onset of the COVID pandemic and allowed officials to turn away migrants encountered at the U.S. southern border as officials prepare for a surge of migrants ahead of the forced end of the Trump-era border policy. The Department of Homeland Security has deployed additional agents to El Paso, Texas, where thousands of migrants have been attempting to cross the border daily. And many people are saying that we need to understand why it is that they are coming. They are not coming to America as much as they are running away from home because of interference in their democratically elected governments. And many are accusing our government of doing just that. A massive storm is producing raging blizzards in the north and damaging tornadoes in the south, shuttering highways and hampering travel. According to CNN Storm Tracker, the storm system is moving east across the nation and is currently lingering over the central U.S., and it is cold here in Chicago. There have been at least 5 confirmed tornadoes in Texas and multiple others involved. Blessings to everybody. Oklahoma, Dallas, Fort Worth, they've had their homes flattened by this massive storm. About 9 million people recently received emails from the Department of Education that mistakenly said their application for student loan forgiveness had been approved. Thus far, no one has received debt forgiveness from the Biden administration's debt relief program because it remains blocked by federal courts. And those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. A whole lot going on, and of course the Respect for Marriage Act was signed yesterday to much applause at the White House and a relief all over the country. It's a joyful day in which not only same-sex marriages were guarded, but so were interracial marriages. Everybody, thank you, Richard Loving and Mildred Jeter Loving, for pressing that case for love in the United States of America. Pastor Vicki Johnson, in this Christmas season, it is a joy to be with you. Of course, she's the pastor of the St. Thomas Lutheran Church here in Chicago at 80th and Jeffrey, right there on the corner. Get on there for your hour of power at 11:45, masked, unmasked, you can be there. But of course, there's certain protocols that are observed for the masked and the unmasked. And we just thank God for you, Pastor Vicki Johnson, today. We need some good news. I know I do. I need it.
Well, good morning, Santita, and good morning to all of your morning stars and friends. There is good news. Genesis, the first chapter in verses 26 through 28, gives an account of the creation story. And the New Revised Standard Version says, "Then God said, let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over the cattle and over all wild animals of the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over all the birds of the air and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." Isn't it something that when God created us in God's image and likeness with dominion and power over basically everything, we were created to see everyone and everything else, but not ourselves. The only way to your face is to look at your image in a mirror. or in a pond, in a store window, or anything that will give a reflection of you. There are two powerful lessons we can get from this point of creation. First of all, since we cannot see ourselves and only see those around us, could it be that what we are seeing might be a reflection of us? We are often quick to point out the flaws in others, but could it be that that glaring flaw is resident in us as well, but we can't see it? We are often quick to talk about what someone else should do. Could it be that we, too, should be doing the same thing or something very? The other point about this creation is not being able to see ourselves causes us to rely on others to keep us straight physically. We all need somebody to lean on and to see what we cannot see. Little things like spinach stuck in our teeth or other things to help us present our best selves. Taking this creation information to heart can begin a reconsidering of how we see others so that we can see how we can be better. It's not all about me. It's all about us. That is what we were created to be, a community, to be a family that will see how we can make each of us all better. Take a look at what you see in others to help you be your best self. If you will do this, and I believe that you will, then to me, that's good news.
Amen, amen, amen. You know, the people around you really do reflect who you are. They really, really do.
Yes.
So, you know,
Yes.
and that's why you don't get in arguments with people who are married or people who are coupled, because you really are talking to the same person on a fundamental levels. I let it go. I'm like, oh, you know what? I wish you all the best. And I'm pulling for you both, unless it's toxic and crazy. And even then I step out of it. But I don't really, thank God, know a whole lot of toxic, crazy people. They're not close up on me, so thank God for that. Pastor Vicki Johnson, how can we catch your service on Sunday?
Well, you know, you can attend live and in person at 8000 South Jeffrey, St. Thomas Lutheran Church, Chicago, Illinois, right on the corner of 80th and Jeffrey. Or you can catch us on Facebook Live, 11:45 a.m. for the Hour of Power.
Sending much love, Pastor Vicki Johnson's way. Love you, love you, love you, my dear, dear, dear sister friend. We've got Dr. Shanita Knighton. I take that. Registered nurse, infection preventionist, college lecturer. She does so much. She's the executive director of the Association for Professionals in Infection Control and Epidemiology, but we know her as Hey, Dr. Nina. Hey, Dr. Nina, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you?
That is her handle in social media. Everybody look her up, because she has got a lot of common sense knowledge. Everybody's focused on COVID and even RSV and the flu. It's that we need looking out for. And I ask this question because over the past few weeks, I've been able to take tests that we were able to take routinely, before the pandemic, right? And many of these tests had to be scheduled months in advance. And I got waitlisted and then, I just was really blessed to be able to get a lot of tests, but they were all, just kind of piled on one another. But, when you get on the wait list, Dr. Knighton, you jump in because you got to take these tests. But I wonder, if you find a lump what do you do? Is there any way for you to muscle your way into a test, into a biopsy? What if you think that there's really something that is very wrong with you? What steps would you recommend that people take?
So, Santita, my response is not going to be from the standpoint of a medical provider, but from the standpoint of just being a human being. And that would be advocating for my health, meaning that you may go to one facility or one area, they may turn you away, may tell you that you need to wait. And the thing is it may require you to have to look to other healthcare facilities. It may have to have you look through the clinic in order for you to be able to receive assistance. It's also, too, like online. So, for example, not becoming a medical provider because you're online, but also recognizing, too, if you feel a lump, what kind of lump are you feeling? So if we're talking about, like, let's say breast, for example, typically those are assessments that you do around the time of your menstrual cycle, where you will lay flat on your back and you will actually palpate, which means like push down on your breast to see if you do feel a lump or a mass. The one thing that I can tell you is that people may assume that a cancer lump hurts, when in fact that's not necessarily the case. And so it is important to get things checked out, but understand that is only a part of the equation. Prevention is better than treatment. And so if you're feeling it, then you would want to check in with someone. But if getting into the appointment is challenging, you ask yourself, are there free clinics or other resources that I need to use? And then can I get on more than one wait list? Potentially, if I know that that wait list is going to be longer. Because then if you're on a few wait lists and something does become available, you can always cancel the other, and then that'll give someone else the availability of that schedule. Now, unfortunately, Santita, this is coming from a place of privilege, because we know that some individuals do not have access to even get on the wait list because potentially they don't have insurance or resources. So this is where they would be looking for resources to be able to assist them.
So, like, would you go to the county hospital and be able to get a test? How do you find the resources for these clinics that will not cost you?
So I would say reach out to your Department of Health as a resource to understand that. So that is a good source to be able to start with. There's always information. So even if you look at your state department will have information about resources. Your church may very well have information about resources. It's always good that when someone has a health screening, to go check out the health screenings, because while it may not necessarily be what you're focused on, you may meet a provider there that may be able to give you information about that free resource, or you may even be able to network with that provider, let them know the dilemma that you're having, and they may have sympathy and may fit you in. So this is a time of where if you are feeling like that, you have to advocate for yourself, as well as put yourself in situations to talk to others that may be able to assist you, even if you don't have the resources to be able to do so.
So in other words, there is a way for you to get the test that you need, and then I guess you could then go to your state Department of Health if you are uninsured, or if you're underinsured even, so that you can get the follow-up care.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then, that's good news, and that's great Christmas information, because we're spending a lot of time talking about these transmissible viruses, and we should. But in the meantime, it occurred to me, because I was at the doctor yesterday, and I've been at the doctor for weeks, just day after day after day, getting tests and all of that. I said, there's so much other stuff that you've got to pay attention to in your body But we're not doing that right now. We're not doing that right now. Ladies, there are exams that you need, get them. Men, there are exams that you need, get them. Just, what did you say? Be the CEO of your own health. I've got about 30 seconds for you. What does that mean?
That means that prevention is better than treatment, and you want to advocate for yourself as well as check on your body before having to rely on someone else to tell you what it is that you need when you may know what it is that you need. We know when we feel off. We know when things don't feel right. That is the most important time for us to be cognizant of what we should be doing for ourselves.
You know when you are not, when things are not quite right. Take care of yourselves, everybody. That is some of the Christmas good news. Go to Hey Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA, HEYDRNINA. Hey Dr. Nina, that is her handle on social media. If you want some of the best common sense advice about your health, it's not to make you paranoid, it's to make you vigilant. Because at the end of the day, you cannot, what did you say? We're not going to vaccinate our way out of this pandemic. We're going to have to develop some new healthful habits. That's what's going to make us healthy, everybody. Think about that. Love you, Dr. Nina. And let's talk about Julian Assange. Should we imprison whistleblowers? I mean, Daniel Ellsberg, if he didn't give us the Pentagon Papers, we could still be embroiled in that Vietnam War. It would have just stretched on and on and on and on. Think about that. Think about the whistleblowers. Think about Ed Snowden. Think about that. Do we need to continue to punish them, or should we lift them up? Do we really have freedom of speech in the United States? All these questions and more for Chip Gibbons from Defending Rights and Dissent. Back in just a minute on the Santita Jackson Show.
There's new information.
Thank you.
It's how every day starts. Need for information.
Get the info you need from Santita Jackson. Weekday mornings starting at 6 on WCPT 820.
In honor of all those we've lost to cancer and those still fighting and thriving, like basketball analyst Dick Vitale.
I want to beat cancer. I'm going to. So down in my mind, I'm going to win this battle.
Defeating cancer will take all of us. At the V Foundation, V is for victory over cancer. V is for victory over giving up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Join our team in the fight against cancer.
Okay, yeah, I can't hear you, unfortunately.
Has your gambling become a financial and emotional problem? Is your life unmanageable and you're starting to lose hope that you can put an end to the madness? You're well. You don't have to suffer alone. There is help. The members of Gamblers Anonymous are ready to welcome and support you. We understand what you're going through. We have been where you are today. Please visit our website at www.gachicago.org and learn more about how your life can get better. That's www.gachicago.org.
Now I can hear you. It's a little bit better now.
So much uncertainty with democracy hanging in the balance. It's easy to feel
okay,
helpless.
I'm going to call you because I want to find out
the reason that we've decided to give our very own Patty Vasquez an extra hour to her show.
I want to work out with you what to discuss so we can have more targeted discussions. I know you are really busy. But if I will send you a list the night before, and you can just say, give me an up or down on it, okay?
Here's the latest Chicago weather updates.
Okay. Henry, I cannot hear anything that Dr. Knighton is saying.
Right on.
Okay.
Let me get on that.
Cloudy
thank
skies,
you.
a high into the mid 40s.
Also, I have Chip Gibbons ready to go.
Okay.
I've called Chappelle a few times. She's not picked up yet, but I can keep trying to her in the break.
Okay. No worries. Thank you so much. If we can't get her at the top, then we'll get her
partial sunshine
as we're going out of the break, okay?
37.
But let me speak with Dr.
Friday, a
Knighton,
chance for snow,
please.
cloudy,
And then,
high of
and of course,
32.
Chip Gibbons.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 38.
He should be through now.
Okay, Chip Gibbons.
WCBT 820 AM is proud to announce that we've been recognized
How are
as
you?
an LGBT business enterprise to the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce and our
I know.
LGBT
You know what,
Chamber of Commerce of
Henry?
Illinois.
He's too
To be
far back,
certified as
and
an
the radio is too
no
forward.
easy
I cannot hear anything.
Of not only our proud ownership.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can you bring Chip up just a little bit, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Chip, can you keep speaking?
I can. Yes, I can hear you now. Before I was getting the weather or
or something like that. Yes,
Absolutely.
I can hear you. It's been a while since I last spoke to you, but it's good to be back.
Always, look, I have so many questions for you. I just, I know that you're always busy and you've been writing, so I've tried to give you a little bit of space. But now that I know, I will give it to you. But I need you to bring him down just a bit. He's a little hot. Henry?
Yeah.
He's a little hot.
Just it. Hopefully that's better.
No, let's have him speak so we can test him. Chip, can I hear you now?
Okay. Yeah, I'm still here.
That's much better. Hold on one moment. Do we have Dr. Knight in there still?
Yeah, she's still on, but I can't hear her on my end.
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, I can hear her. Dr. Knighton?
I'm still here.
Fantastic. No, I couldn't hear you at all. We were trying to work out something technical. It's always something technical. But what I'm going to do is I want to send you some articles or some topics, and you can just go up or down so we can, be very targeted. And if there's something if there's an initiative that your organization has, please let me know so we can talk about it. I know you all are working on so much stuff.
And I know.
Please, both of you. I want to know I need to know what's going on because I'm a one-woman band here.
We're about to come back in 10 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Digging up information. Stand by. Thank you.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to reach out to me on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That is my official page, everybody. Not the Santita Jackson page, but the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Please, please become my friend over there and meet me on Twitter. Please, please, please. Go Santita J at Santita J at SANTITA, the letter J, and that is where you will find me. Not at Santita Jackson, the Santita J. Santita J is where you want to be and where I want to see you. And so please reach out to me at the top of the hour. We will be talking about Brittany Griner. She's not being celebrated. There's a debate about whether she should have been rescued at all. Even as we have more and more questions about Paul Whelan and his background, 4 passports, a dishonorable discharge from the U.S. Marines, successful corporate career, and on and on and on. I don't know all of the pieces. I don't, but that's not her background. So why is she being attacked? Is it because she's an athlete deemed not as high level as a veteran? Is it because she's black? Is it because she's a woman? Is it because she's a black woman? Is it because she's gay? Is it because she's a black gay woman? We'll talk about that at the top of the hour. But if you want to call about that, call. In the meantime, let us talk about Julian Assange. Why is he such a hot potato? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Why is he such a hot potato? President Biden is facing growing pressure to drop charges against Julian Assange. And who is he? Let's go back in this case. Let's see who he is, what he's accused of doing, and let's look at whistleblowers overall. If we didn't have Daniel Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers, we would have stayed in that war in Vietnam for a much longer period of time, it can be argued, and we would have also, we wouldn't have known what was going on. When Americans found out what was really going on, they said, not in my name. Get out, and on and on and on. Ed Snowden has let us know just how heavily surveilled we are. Don't you want to know? Yeah, it's the whistleblowers. And Ed Snowden has been pushed out of the United States. He's living in Russia. Julian Assange is in jail. Is that the way we're supposed to handle freedom of speech? Think about that. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. And we have the Policy Director of Defending Rights and Dissent, one of my favorite people in the world, Chip Gibbons. Chip Gibbons, take us back. First of all, Merry Christmas if that is your holiday. Happy holidays to you overall. I'm sending you much love, my dear friend. Who is Julian Assange and why is this case significant? And what are whistleblowers anyway?
Well, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to you as well. Julian Assange is the publisher and founder of WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks was sort of a novel attempt that was started in 2007 that used a number of sort of encryption protocols that was designed to enable people around the world who had government or corporate secrets to share them anonymously with WikiLeaks, who would then publish them online or work with newspapers and other outlets to publish them. The goal was to protect sources by having this sort of method in which they could safely communicate with the press. Early on, they published a number of secrets, of corporate secrets about corporate misconduct, and there were attempts to take them off the web. As early as 2008, the U.S. Military Counterintelligence Division is putting together memorandums about the threat that WikiLeaks could pose, that if they publish truthful information that the U.S. government doesn't want out there, that's a problem, and that the only way to sort of stop WikiLeaks would be to find or arrest some of their sources, since that would sort of cast doubt on the technology they were using, or to get them to publish something that was untrue. WikiLeaks has never published false information. From 2010 to 2011...
So wait. Hold on.
WikiLeaks,
Hold on. You said WikiLeaks has never published false information?
They've never published something that was untrue, right? They get information from sources. It's anonymous, but they take some steps to verify it. And there's obviously would be a huge credibility problem if someone was to submit something that was a forged document or a false document. But their track record on publishing truthful information has been very high. There's no known example where they published a document that was not what it purported to be, which is one of the ways the U.S. government pinpoints in 2008. This is before they're a household name. This is before they're a controversial organization, about ways of that it could potentially undermine them, getting them to publish something that was false, or, as they would end up doing, going after their sources and arresting, jailing, or otherwise persecuting them. In 2010 to 2011, this is where, the story really picks up. An Army intelligence officer by the name of Chelsea Manning, who's very concerned by what she witnesses in Iraq, goes to WikiLeaks anonymously through its channels with a large amount of information, war logs from Iraq and Afghanistan, diplomatic cables from the State Department, as well as detainee assessment briefs from Guantanamo Bay. And beginning in 2010, WikiLeaks partners, and this is a really key part of the story that gets lost, they partner with mainstream news outlets. I believe the first two are The Guardian and the New York Times, in releasing these documents in small batches, accompanied by sort of articles explaining and making and getting news stories based off of the information that's in there. They start with the Afghan war logs, they go through the Iraq war logs, and 12 years ago, they start with what's called the Cablegate or State Department cable leaks. The initial 5 papers who work with WikiLeaks on this are El País, the New York Times, The Guardian, Le Monde, and Der Spiegel. So 5 papers from around the world in each of their countries. They're probably the most prestigious mainstream paper. And they start publishing these State Department cables, and WikiLeaks is often criticized because eventually these cables end up entirely unredacted on the internet. But it's really worth remembering that's not how this starts, right? It starts with small releases from these 5 papers, and then as the next 11 months go on, WikiLeaks works with other publications specializing in parts of the world to once again engage in these curated releases. So, for example, they work with The Nation magazine and Haiti Liberté to publish a series of articles about U.S. State Department cables pertaining to Haiti that show such things as the U.S. State Department working with Fruit of the Loom and Levi Jeans Company to push Haiti into not raising its minimum wage, or trying to prevent Haiti from letting Aristide, the former president who was overthrown in a U.S. coup, from returning. At some point, the way in which the journalists get this information is they're all in encrypted files. At some point, they require people to use computers not connected to the internet to access them. Stefania Morici, the Italian journalist who leaks on these, has a book out called Secret Power, and she really explains the security protocols in great detail. They frustrate a lot of the journalists. And what happens is The Guardian, one of the journalists in The Guardian, ends up publishing the password to the encrypted documents in his book, and it then becomes available on the internet, and a bunch of other websites with the release the entire documents unredacted. So WikiLeaks is oftentimes criticized for just dumping information indiscriminately, but in the Cablegate context, that's far from the case. Chelsea Manning, the source for this, is arrested. She's court-martialed under the Espionage Act. She's held in conditions that have been criticized by the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture as being torture. And the Obama administration is confronted with the choice of whether or not they're going to prosecute Assange and WikiLeaks. And they make the decision, even though they're willing to prosecute Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden and people like that, they make the decision that any precedent against Assange and WikiLeaks would enable the prosecution of the New York Times. And they don't go for that, but they do encourage other governments to pursue criminal charges against Assange. And there's a whole series of events where he ends up attempting to receive asylum in Ecuador, and is never allowed to leave the Ecuadorian embassy in London because the British, most likely at the behest of the U.S., have the embassy surrounded and have a number of pretexts on which they plan to arrest him if he ever leaves, knowing that if he is arrested, the U.S. will eventually file an extradition request for him. This brings us to the current moment where Assange is in Belmarsh prison in the United Kingdom, awaiting extradition to the U.S. on 18 counts. 17 of those counts are under the Espionage Act, and they relate to publishing the information with Chelsea Manning. The 18th count is that he conspired to commit computer intrusion. It does not allege he hacked anything, but that he conspired to do so. And the elements of the conspiracy are very disturbing on a number of levels. They include the fact that WikiLeaks helped Edward Snowden apply for asylum, using this theory that by helping someone apply for political asylum, they are inciting other people to go out and hack information. It's all very troubling. But what we've seen in the last month is this sort of escalating global pressure on the Biden administration to drop these charges. We saw the 5 newspapers who published Cablegate put out a joint statement together asking for all charges against Assange pertaining to the State Department cables to be dropped, reminding the Biden administration that they brought those charges that they published that information too. And that really puts the Biden administration in a interesting position, because this just isn't newspapers saying don't do this. This is newspapers saying we did this too. The editor of an online news site called Kryptone has come forward and asked to be added to the indictment on the basis that he published the State Department cables before WikiLeaks did on their website. Dan Ellsberg has also revealed that the Pentagon Papers whistleblower, that he was WikiLeaks' backup and that he had a copy of the Iraq war logs, and he also asked to be added to the indictment. Obviously, the U.S. government's not going to do so. And then you've also seen this really amazing national pressure on the Biden administration. In just the last couple of weeks, the Prime Minister of Australia has announced that they have Julian Assange is an Australian citizen, that they've communicated with the U.S. government, asking them to end the prosecution and let Julian Assange return to his home country. And we see a number of heads of state in Latin America coming out and calling for the charges against Julian Assange to be dropped. The president of Colombia has done so. The president-elect, I guess, president now of Brazil, Lula, has done so. In the past, the president of Mexico has raised the issue with Biden in one-on-one meetings. So, in Latin America, Julian Assange is viewed very differently than he is by the U.S. government. In Western Europe, he's viewed very differently than he is by the U.S. government. So around the world, you have people, including heads of state, calling on the Biden administration to end this because it's rightfully viewed. I know Assange is a very controversial figure in the U.S., but around much of the world, he is viewed as somebody who revealed the U.S.'s dirty secrets, which is what a journalist is supposed to do, and is being persecuted. Press freedom groups like mine.
No. I mean, is it around? It's around the rest of the world. I mean, only 4.5% of the world. I mean, that's been our challenge, understanding. I mean, I think one of the blessings and burdens is that we are bordered by two oceans. There are, when you drive through Europe, that's like driving from England to France is like from driving to Chicago to Indiana. So in Europe, you got to know a lot of different languages. You have to understand a lot of different nuances. In America, not so much, because we're one people from sea to shining sea. And I think one thing that we don't understand, we don't understand that WikiLeaks has not been caught in a lie, Chip. So I'm sorry that, pardon the interruption, but I felt that it was important that we emphasize that. And we have to emphasize that not only in South America and Central America and Western Europe, but the BRICS nations. That's the new economic alignment in the world, which is basically the global South, which is most of the world, everybody. They view this very differently. The president is meeting, Chip, as you know, with the African leaders today, with 49 of them anyway. And, because they're saying, well, Putin disrupted the relationship with Africa. That's not true. America never went for Africa. Russia did. China did. And when you see the African Union headquarters, it was built by China. We missed a huge opportunity, and we're missing a lot of what's going on in the world because of our own hubris. Pardon my editorializing, but when I'm hearing you recount this story, what they revealed about Haiti, what they have revealed, what Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have revealed has been stunning, and it's been necessary, Chip Gibbons.
Yeah, and the revelations about Haiti and Latin America, I believe that's part of the reason why Julian Assange has such a reputation in the global South. I mean, in countries where there is a history of U.S. intervention, I don't think any country has been intervened in more by the U.S. than Haiti. There is a real different relationship with understanding how the U.S. acts on a global stage, and there was a real sort of appreciation for what WikiLeaks revealed about these State Department backroom dealings. There's information in these cables about the U.S. funding the opposition in Venezuela. There's information about the U.S. bombing Yemen and the Yemeni government taking credit for the bombings. There was information about the State Department's awareness of corruption in Tunisia. And I bring that up because it sparked the first protest of the Arab Spring. I mean, obviously you cannot reduce the Arab Spring to a single cause. Obviously, people in those countries have agency and were aware of the problems. But when WikiLeaks published these cables about corruption in Tunisia, it set off the first protest of what later became a regional, you could argue global wave of pro-democracy protest. So the impact of WikiLeaks on the world, especially in the global South, has been extremely positive, which is why I think people see so clearly that this is the example of someone who's being persecuted, right? If you've had the U.S. intervene in your country, if you've been sanctioned by the U.S., you've had a democratic government removed in a coup, and this comes out, the State Department is still exploiting your country, and the next thing you know, the U.S. wants to essentially disappear Julian Assange into a dungeon, your reaction is going to be much more different than someone whose relationship with WikiLeaks is being the one exposed, right? And it is a really dangerous prosecution, and it hasn't just been the prosecution. We have an ongoing criminal investigation in Spain. It's gotten very little attention in the U.S., but a Spanish high judge, they have a legal system where judges investigate crimes, is investigating allegations against a Spanish company called UC Global, alleging that company worked with the CIA to spy on Assange inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London, to spy on other people. They also broke into Pamela Anderson's phone. She visited him a number of times there. They spied on Yanis Varoufakis and Stefania Morici, the Italian journalist. And the Spanish government has subpoenaed Mike Pompeo, the former CIA director, to come to Spain and to testify about allegation that he was involved in an assassination plot against Julian Assange. So the other piece of the story is all of this sort of CIA covert action. And there's many incidents over the last 12 years of U.S. government bad acts involving WikiLeaks. The FBI went to Iceland to interview a potential witness against WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks is based in Iceland, and they lied to the government of Iceland about why they were coming. They told them that they faced some sort of imminent hacking attack, and that the FBI had to come to their country. And once it was discovered why the FBI was really there, they were expelled by the government of Iceland. Right? We lied to one of our allies. Imagine that, to enter their country under false pretenses in order to investigate what Iceland considers to be a legitimate news service. You have the CIA being criminally investigated in Spain. And the U.S. is refusing to cooperate with the investigation, even though we have a mutual legal assistance treaty, right? You have all these requests for help from the Spanish judge. The U.S. will not provide the information. They want to know more about the sources. Many of the claims in the Spanish case are based on former employees of the Spanish company, UC Global. UC Global had the contract to provide security within the Ecuadorian embassy in London. It is alleged they were also working for the CIA to spy both on Julian Assange, his visitors. He got a lot of visitors in the embassy, as well as the president of Ecuador, President Correa. And I've spoken to one of the former ministers of Ecuador, Guillaume Long, and he is quite adamant that they were all being spied on by the CIA through this group, UC Global. And it is, like I said, it is the subject of a criminal investigation in Spain, but you wouldn't know that from watching the U.S. news. They also spied on U.S. citizens who visited Assange at the embassy, and Mike Pompeo. And who can believe it? And Mike Pompeo and the CIA are right now the subject of a civil suit in this country for violation of Fourth Amendment rights, brought by 2 American lawyers and 2 American journalists who are suing both Pompeo in his individual capacity and the CIA as an organization for what they allege is this illegal surveillance that took place against them. So you really have a potentially wide net that was cast in this war on WikiLeaks and on Assange. I mentioned Stefania Morici, the Italian journalist who worked with them. I mean, she's also involved in one of these criminal complaints in Spain, because when they searched the home of the man who ran this very shadowy Spanish security firm, they found pictures of her cell phone taken apart when she visited Assange in the embassy. The UC Global company, they took her cell phone and took apart the SIM card and took pictures of it. Now, I have no idea what good taking pictures of someone's cell phone SIM card does, but it's really very troubling to her as a journalist who works with confidential sources to wonder what was the extent of this targeting. So, I mean, they've really gone very far in endangering press freedom. both from bringing this prosecution and engaging in this sort of illicit covert action and surveillance.
I've got about 90 seconds left. What should we do? I mean, because what does it say about press freedoms? I need you to come back. If not, if maybe you can come back in the morning, because I think that there's a lot about WikiLeaks that we don't know, and what this says about press freedom, what this says about our understanding of how the world works. And quite frankly, Chip, when you look at the grave mistrust and the great mistrust that almost all Americans have in our institutions, this is at the heart of it. And
I mean,
yes, 1 minute. It belongs to you.
I think people need to be reaching out to the members of Congress and to be writing to the Biden White House and telling them to drop these charges, to take efforts to amend the Espionage Act so it cannot be used against journalists and whistleblowers. I mean, whatever people think of Julian Assange, and I know a lot of people in this country do not like him, the prosecution that the Biden administration inherited from Donald Trump is one that will set a precedent that can be used against the New York Times, can be used against the Washington Post, and any newspaper who publishes information the U.S. government deems secret. This is a prosecution that will endanger critical reporting on national security broadly. It is far bigger than one person. It is far bigger than one publisher. It is far bigger than anyone's individual feelings about Julian Assange or the editorial choices he made at WikiLeaks. It is about whether or not we will continue to have a First Amendment as we've understood it for the last 50 years, 50 to 100 years in this country, or will we be in a situation where if the government says you can't publish this, they can jail journalists? They already jailed the sources. We saw that with Chelsea Manning, with Daniel Hale. Now they want to come for the journalist. And I really think people should ask themselves, where does this end if they take on Julian Assange? Where do they go next? It isn't stopping them.
That's what happened to Dr. King. I've lived with it all of my life. They're coming for you. Anytime you march, anytime you engage in dissent, they're coming for you. That's why this case is so important to you. Thank you for the brilliant work that you do, Chip Gibbons. Defending rights and dissent, everybody. Just a minute. Chip?
Yes.
I've got to have you back. Let me know if you have any time tomorrow or Friday.
Tomorrow, there's going to be a press conference around Daniel Hale's case. Representative Ilhan Omar is speaking at it. Daniel Ellsberg is speaking at it. Steve Donziger is speaking at it. So I'm kind of out of permission tomorrow.
Well, let me know about Friday, okay?
Okay.
I think it's important to continue and for these purposes to bring up, what they revealed about Haiti, to bring up what they've revealed about, just really through the global South and in the United States. I'm so glad that my father got a chance to go see Julian Assange when he was at the embassy over in London. And, just actually and symbolically to be in solidarity with him. And it's what they're doing to him. But we're from a whole lot. We're dissenters. That's part of the reason that I'm so that's what we do. And so FBI files, got it. No, and I don't care. I really do not. What I care about. I mean, when you think of Dr. King, a dissenter, look at the people who dissent. Think about Daniel Ellsberg, everybody, in the Pentagon Papers. If those Pentagon Papers had not been released, and I remember when he brought his family to our Operation Push meeting when I was a little girl, because he had that little cover, he had to find allies where he could find them. I remember that, and I thank God that my parents, and I was like 7, like 6, 7, 8 years of age. But, our parents kept us very engaged. I mean, putting us on the picket lines with them, and they kept us very engaged in what they were fighting for. And, so if you can give us an update on Daniel Hale and Chelsea Manning and Julian Assange and whatever it is that we can do, I certainly will work with you to do that.
Hi, Ms. Jackson. I have everyone ready to call up except for Dr. David L. Johns or David J. Johns. I'm at the call limit right now on my system on my end, so I'm going to need someone to probably drop before I can get them on.
Okay, well,
some of the remaining information.
Or someone to consolidate.
No,
and,
no,
like, call.
just hold on because
Okay.
I know Mr. Gibbons is gonna run because I know we need the line, but
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm gonna just let's be in touch before Friday
Yeah.
because I absolutely want you
Okay.
to come back to talk about this.
Okay. All right.
Cindy, we've got
Good to
limited
talk to you.
lines. Thank you so much.
No, I'll get off, but I'll hear from you soon. Bye.
You'll hear from me later on. Thank you. CK? Is CK there? Aaron?
Yep, just put it through.
Okay, just make sure is everybody through? CK?
Yes, good morning.
Okay, are you on speaker?
I am.
Okay,
I was
let me hear you off
surprised.
speaker. Okay, because I'm just trying to get the sound right. Attorney Jones?
Good morning.
Daryl, thank you so much for the message. I was out of commission a lot of yesterday, and I got the message a little late. I would have called you had I looked at it earlier. But I reached out to her by text, and I'm going to connect. Well, I reached out to Shelley so he could connect him to Latasha today.
Okay, great.
And
Love to hear from you.
oh, I'm going to reach out because
Morning.
well, without getting into any details, our beloved sister Latasha Brown lost her son yesterday. So if you all can reach out to Ms. Latasha Brown on social media, please do that. But she lost her baby yesterday. And so with all the great work that she does, she's a mother and she's a grandmother. And she's got a broken heart today. When I connected with her yesterday, the first thing she said was, "Girl, I'm heartbroken. I can only imagine." So everybody, please hold Latasha Brown and her family in your bosom of prayer today. She needs it. She needs it. She needs our energy. She needs us more than ever. And she has spent her life trying to help us. So let us send love to her. Robert Patillo?
Good morning.
Good morning. Dwight McKee?
You have to jump off about 7:30, but I'll jump back on.
Dr. David L. J. Johns is also ready to go.
Okay, Dr. Johns?
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
And we're going to be back in 2 minutes.
Doing well, and yourself?
Great. This is the legal Q&A with CK segment of, Attorney CK Hoffler. She's a chairwoman of the board of Rainbow Push, but she's also a legal analyst on Court TV and the past president of the National Bar Association. And we're going to have this conversation about why people are booing Brittany Griner's release. What's really behind this? We're going to be talking about that as we're watching the Respect for Marriage Act signed into codified by law. We celebrate that. And as we celebrate that, we're also watching crimes against LGBTQ plus persons on the rise. So we've got a lot to unpack today. And so we're glad that all of you are here with us to do just that today. CK, you did get my text, yes?
I did.
So you see who's populating the
back in 60.
Okay, so we're in under a minute. So everyone, if you don't mind, please try to stay off mute. So when we come to you, we can get right to you, and stay off mute, and please stay in your phones. And these headsets tend not to work as well. So we will see, but if we ask you to switch, that will be the reason, presumably, why. So let's have a great show, everybody. God bless. Stand by.
Back in 30.
Thank you. Thank you, Henry. Thank you all. Everybody send her some love today. Send Latasha Brown some love today.
Stand by.
Thank you. And Walter, I hear you.
change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, the second hour on Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet me on my Facebook page, the Santita Jackson and Friends page, Santita Jackson and Friends, and on my Twitter handle at Santita J. We're doing this show, of course, from YouTube. Everyone, please migrate from Facebook over to YouTube, the Santita Jackson Show, the Santita Jackson Show, and everybody who's watching today on Facebook or on YouTube, please like and share, everybody. Pass the word. Walter will be dealing with your question about what's happening with Africa and this summit that they're having at the White House. I think that America missed a grand opportunity to have another kind of relationship with Africa, and we're going to talk about that because they relate to Russia very, very differently. They have done that historically, and as have African American dissidents. They've related to Russia very differently than America has, and we need to start dealing with that. But we're going to talk about Brittany Griner today. The Respect for Marriage Act was signed yesterday, codifying into federal law the protections for interracial and same-sex marriages as we watch crimes against LGBTQ persons on the rise. We're going to talk about that today on Legal Q&A with CK. So let's get right to it, everybody. Let's get through some of these headlines so we can get to this important topic. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 44 degrees. There will be rain. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, 39 degrees, rain and snow. In the World Cup, France and Morocco today. Morocco is the first African team to get this far in the World Championship of Soccer. So we're going to see what's going to happen today at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. Argentina 3, Croatia 0. So Argentina faces off in the finals this weekend. Will it be France? Will it be Morocco? I'm pulling for Morocco. Yes, I am. But you got a lot of Moroccan players on the French team. So there we have it. All right, everybody. In the NBA, the Knicks will be playing the Bulls, and the Timberwolves will be facing off against the Clippers. In the NHL, the Capitals 7, the Chicago team 3, and the Red Wings will be playing the Wild later on today. A massive storm is producing blizzards in the north and damaging tornadoes in the south, shuttering highways and hampering travel. According to CNN Storm Tracker, this system is moving east across the nation and currently lingering over the central United States. Everybody be careful. The Biden administration is facing a December deadline to terminate a public health authority known as Title 42 that was invoked at the onset of the pandemic, and allowed officials to turn away migrants encountered at the U.S. southern border as officials prepare for a surge of migrants ahead of the forced end of the Trump-era policy. The Department of Homeland Security has deployed additional agents to the border in El Paso, Texas. About 9 million people recently received emails from the Department of Education that mistakenly said that their application for student loan forgiveness had been approved. Thus far, no one has received student debt forgiveness because this legislation, this dictate has been locked up in the court. So we will have to see what's going to happen, everybody. And of course, we're waiting on these World Cup finals. And those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. So let's get right to it. I can hear a little background noise. I think somebody's shuffling papers like I am or moving something. So we want to get that taken care of so that we can get to the rest of the show. It's been a joyful day that we saw yesterday when we saw the Respect for Marriage Act. The Respect for Marriage Act, of course, the 1967 decision with Mildred Jeter Loving and Richard Loving, in which they struck down the laws prohibiting blacks and whites from marrying in the United States. And then we moved over a few decades. We saw the same kind of protections, the prohibitions against same-sex marriage struck down, the protections encoded into law. But now a funny thing has happened, on the way to the Supreme Court. Same-sex couples and, quite frankly, interracial couples don't feel as secure anymore. And so We have to look at that. We have to look at that. And underneath all of that, maybe a symbol of that is Brittany Griner, the brilliant WNBA player, two-time Olympian, superstar, one of the most skilled persons in her field in the world. Instead of celebrating her release from prison, many Americans are, not most, but many, certainly, they're making enough noise. They're saying, why her? Why didn't we get Paul Whelan out? Even though he's got 4 passports, even though he was dishonorably discharged CK from the Marines, even though he's gone on to have a successful career, his case is far more complex. So he was a non-starter for the Russians in terms of a negotiation. But the arms dealer, Victor Boot, who was housed here in Illinois, well, they said, no, we want that exchange. And so that happened. But it seems like there's something else, CK, going on with this pushback against Brittany Griner. And the question is, CK, I want to know, is it because she's an athlete? And we do undervalue athletes until we need them to win at the Olympics or some big game in which our national or personal identities are wedded? Or is it because she's Black? Anti-Black hatred exists all over the world. Is it because she's a woman? Misogyny exists all over the world. Is it because she's gay? Homophobia exists all over the world. Is it because she's a Black, gay woman? CK, you got a tremendous panel. And, leading the panel today is Dr. David Johns, one of the leading young civil rights leaders. He's really at the vanguard of the civil rights movement today. But particularly, he comes from, he places particular emphasis on the rights of the LGBTQ plus community who've been violated. CK, is Legal Q&A with CK. Take it away.
Good morning, Santita, and to everyone. Well, this is a very, very complicated question. There are legal issues surrounding the release of Brittany Griner, legal issues surrounding, of course, her case. She was tried and convicted, and the same applies for Paul Whelan. So when we talk about why her and this backlash, this criticism that the Biden administration, that President Biden in particular, is receiving because of her release, I think it's because of all the things you said, Santita. One is she is African American, she's an athlete, she's a woman, she's a gay woman, and she's married to a woman. And she is and the fact that she's a woman, a female athlete, and the issues surrounding why she had to be there and why she had to have a second gig, if you will, in the first place, are also entwined in this narrative, I believe. So I think all of these things are percolating, and that is why I believe there is this backlash. When we look at Paul Whelan, of course, every American that is wrongfully held in captivity in any country should be released. And the government a lot of times takes positions and tries to seek the release of all of these Americans who they believe are held improperly, illegally in captivity. But sometimes in the course of negotiation, like any negotiation, a negotiation is a process of giving and taking. You ask for the world, hoping that you will get something, and that might be short of what you'd like. And I'm certain that the Biden administration would have wanted to have Paul Whelan and others released. But Brittany Griner was who they secured. And I think that we should applaud when an American who we believe is wrongfully detained is released from a penal colony. We should be happy for that American, happy for that family, no matter what her race, her gender, her sexual orientation, or anything. So that's globally where I think we should stand on it. But I do understand Paul Whelan's family probably feels some kind of way. And I've had this discussion with people on my talk show, Santita. People were very, very upset because they said a military person, someone who has fought for this country, surely is more important, and this is a judgment that some people place, than an athlete. I don't think that's fair. And there are a bunch of dynamics. Brittany was evidently, for the Russian government, someone who they were willing to release, whereas Paul Whelan, maybe not so much so. And that's why we have this type of outcome. And finally, having worked with your father, who has secured the release of more Americans than we can count, Santita, Reverend Jackson, when the government failed, when the government negotiations failed, many families reached out to Reverend Jackson, and he secured the release of these families, of these individuals that were wrongfully incarcerated, wrongfully imprisoned, in foreign countries under very, very difficult circumstances.
No, with whom we have been at war. We've had hostilities.
But hostility. And I know because I've worked with him on 2 of those releases. So I say that because there's so many dynamics in the art of negotiation when you're securing the release of an American in a foreign country. More than we can see, but it is a victory no matter how you slice it. Because that American would be sitting in a jail enduring untold circumstances or consequences because they are an American and because of sometimes the allegations against them. And then finally, there are people that say, I know this is the second finally I said, Brittany Griner, which she was accused of, allegedly, was so mild in comparison to the swap, to the arms dealer, to the known criminal who we released and who was swapped back. Well, you see, in the art of negotiation, we're trying to secure someone, getting someone out of jail, and you look at the options, you take the best option for what is presented to you. And you keep it moving. And there probably is going to be another day. I don't believe this is going to end here, but I do believe we need to celebrate the release of an American. And let me go so far as saying an American athletic hero. You see, because when she was playing basketball and everyone was cheering her on and we wanted her to win, no one was thinking about all this negativity. They were thinking about her being an athlete and winning because that's the American way. So she too deserves to be home with her family and those same cheers as she's released, because no one would want their child, their mother, their sister, their brother, their auntie, or anyone related to them to be and to have sustained what Brittany Griner and others have sustained while incarcerated in a penal colony. We don't even know what that means here. A penal colony in a foreign country, while that country is at war with another country and we're supporting that other country. Oh, yeah, because this is all in the context of Russia being in the war with Ukraine. Even though her charges predated that, her incarceration and the progression of her case occurred during this war, which is still ongoing. And the penalty, what she received as a penalty, far exceeded what would have normally been for someone who is accused of cannabis thieves or whatever the real accusations. I don't know that they were real or manufactured, whatever they were. Her penalty was much more severe. And so for that, I applaud the Biden administration. I applaud Vice President Kamala Harris for their efforts in bringing her home. And there will be another day when other Americans will be brought home. But I would encourage those who are critical and who are making judgment about her because she's this, because she's that, to step back and think, if that were your child, if that were your niece, if that were your auntie, how would you feel if she were wrongfully incarcerated in a penal colony in Russia?
Well, and certainly you do need mercy because they have their laws. Because unfortunately, we have people imprisoned in the United States for the same amount of time and longer because of possession of marijuana. And that's what's so awful. I mean, because the fact is, it's a law that they have. It was broken. And you know what? We needed a merciful negotiation to get her out. Now with Paul Whelan, that's a different case. But you've got a tremendous panel. Of course, you've got Attorney Robert Patillo, you've got Dwight McKee, you've got Attorney Darrell Jones, you've got Attorney Aaron Connolly. But one of our special guests, and I'm going to stop calling him a special guest because he's part of the family here today, Dr. David Johns. I'm going to stop doing that with Dr. Johns.
Absolutely. And Dr. Johns, welcome. We are so excited about your contributions and really want to hear what you have to say about this, because there's so many different dynamics to this story, to this tragedy, and to this victory. So, Dr. Johns?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm also okay being called special. I just want to underscore the point that you made, to be clear. For me, this is really a question of value. To the point you made very elegantly and eloquently, I encourage everyone to ask themselves what they value, and then to think about what this case demonstrates that our country in this moment values as compared to Russia. I stood on the South Lawn at the White House yesterday and watched President Biden and Vice President terrorists signed into law the Respect for Marriage Act. And the one thing that I was clear about is that no one should have to question whether or not their love or their ability to love and the desire to be loved will not be respected. Everything to do with moving past tolerance with regard to both interracial marriages as well as LGBTQIA plus marriages, relationships, and identities. And at the core of it, it is about all of us celebrating humanity. So for me, I appreciate that an American, Black, same-gender loving, I don't use the term gay because it's a white male, often political identifier, but a Black, same-gender loving woman, and an elite athlete who, as you all already acknowledged, was forced into this unique labor situation because of capitalism, misogyny, and homophobia. We should at some point talk about how many people don't want their daughters who are incredibly talented to play basketball or be in the WNBA because they're afraid of them becoming lesbians. But that notwithstanding, this is really a question of what we value. And I celebrate that this administration and advocates and organizations like the National Black Justice Coalition, since being notified of her detainment, work to ensure that an American and a Black American woman, and again, an elite athlete, people forget that part, is valued. And often we only have this conversation about value with regard to what someone does for their government. I think this is the case in Russia. But we as Americans, especially Black folks who are always at war, when we just made and think about the operation of COINTELPRO, we should all want the same grace, but if not I, kind of grace in this regard, and to think that our country would value us enough to advocate for our state as well.
Amen to that.
And Santita, that is well put, well said. I know that Robert Patillo has actually been on Russian TV, Russian radio, and has been talking about this issue for a great period of time. Reverend Jackson as well. And I would love to hear what Robert's take is, because he's been interacting with the Russian media on this from the beginning and followed step by step. Robert?
Thank you so much, CK. And yeah, I was actually on Russian TV Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of last week talking about the Brittany Griner issue. And one of the things that we always discuss on the morning show there is that what Russia is really interested in is the of U.S. sanctions against Russia. As you know, at the beginning of the Ukrainian special operation, the West put in some of the most crippling sanctions ever seen against Russia. Everything from almost all major Fortune 500 companies leaving the Federation down to 700,000 people, what they call the brain drain, escaping the country over the course of the last 10 months as a result of the sanction regime. You can't get Coca-Cola there anymore. You can't get McDonald's there anymore. In addition to that, they feel that Western nations are violating international law by funneling hundreds of billions of dollars to the Ukrainians with absolutely no governmental oversight. We don't know where the money is going. We don't know who's getting these Javelin missiles. We don't know if we remember back in during the Obama administration, Ukraine was listed as one of the most corrupt governments in the world, including Vice President at the time, Biden, saying that he had to have a corrupt official removed there. So the Russians have valid concerns that I think are not being articulated in the West. And one of the issues I think many people are having with the prisoner swap for the Merchant of Death for Brittany Griner is that it has now put a target on the backs of every prominent American who travels to a potentially hostile nation. The Iranians have here in the United States, they would absolutely like to have back. Why wouldn't they kick James in order to get their prisoners back, given this precedence? China has scientists who were arrested for stealing information on the F-22 development program that led directly to their production, the J-20 by Heavenly Dragon stealth fighter that they are using currently. One of only 3 fifth-generation fighters currently available in the world. Why wouldn't they hold on to, Stephon Marbury or Dwight Howard or somebody who's playing basketball in China in order to get their scientists back who helped secure that information? Once you start down this path, you end up with a super slope. We have the entire Guantanamo Bay apparatus have been holding Iraqi and Afghani citizens for over 20 years now. Those people very much like to have their people back and return to their families. We call them terrorists here. They call them dad and uncle and cousin and everything else. So if there's an American, a prominent business person or attorney or humanitarian in those regions, given the precedents that have been set, what would stop them from simply taking them and holding them until they can have their people returned? So I think the macro issues become that this is very much a smokescreen for the bigger issues with regards to the war in Ukraine and how exactly we're supporting it here as Americans, where the money is coming from, where the money is going, who are the good guys and the bad guys, because we only get one side of the story. But secondarily, what will be the long-term ramifications of this? Because there's one thing if during the Cold War, when Francis Gary Powers, who was a U-2 pilot, shot down over the Soviet Union, and they exchanged him for two Soviet spies. That's a one-to-one governmental military espionage situation where you're exchanging them. But when you start bringing civilians in, the celebrities in, and social media campaigns are what lead to foreign policy decisions or what's popular, well, now effectively we put a target on the back of all Americans traveling internationally, because if you can get the proper attention and social media campaign behind you, they'll be willing to transfer, people who've killed tens of thousands with their weapons because of the PR behind it. So I think that this is a wrong decision, not a wrong decision, but a wrong decision where it's very difficult to make a determination. The Biden administration, of course, made a promise and a commitment to bring Ms. Griner home, but we have to take a serious analysis of what the long-term ramifications might be.
Yeah, what they are, and what's the social fallout? Because instead of cheering CK her return home, many people are jeering it. Why? Is it because she's black? Is it because she's gay? Is it because she's a woman? She's a woman, athlete? Is homophobia behind this? Misogyny? A contempt for a different class of worker? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show, Legal Q&A with CK in just a moment. Everybody, we can keep talking. We're on Facebook Live right now. Dr. Special Johns. There we go. I'm like, what if I started here? I'm going to have to keep him special. I feel like I'm dealing with my baby brother and baby sister. I'm like, golly, okay. Special, the baby. All right. All right, I'll give it to you.
Listen, as the elder said, keep on living. I'll take it for as long as I can.
No, you got it. When you said it, I said, oh, my goodness, here we go. Oh, I'll take that. Are you the eldest? Are you the only child in your nuclear family? In your family of origin?
Yeah, I'm the eldest. There are 2 of us.
Oh, you're the eldest? What?
Yes.
Okay, you said okay, but I'm gonna make you special because I'm the eldest too. We don't get the kind of love. Just kidding.
That's right.
We get the responsibility. Oh my goodness. Right. But I'm really glad that you're here talking about this. We've talked about a lot this morning. We talked about Julian Assange. And what's interesting about his case is that he released so much information about how much America has undermined Haiti and how they're continuing to do it today. And he has unearthed that throughout the global South, really where people of color live all over the world. It's amazing. Right. It's amazing. Right. And so, there's growing pressure on President Biden to let him go. I mean, if we don't, that means free speech is dead, you guys. That's an awful thing. But Attorney Daryl Jones.
Elon Musk made sure of that.
Oh, well, but I will say this, Elon Musk is releasing a lot of stuff. See, I am agnostic about people and their parties and what they believe because, white people have the flexibility to be Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, whatever it is. Because, I think, was it Robert Strauss? Dwight, do you remember? Wasn't he chairman of both
Back in 2
parties?
minutes.
Each of the parties?
Yeah.
He was chairman of the Republican Party. And in our lifetime, you would remember it because you, of course, as a young activist, you saw this guy who became chairman of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. These folks don't care about parties. They care about power.
Right.
So, but CK, you line up.
I want to make my quick point because I have to run.
Oh no, okay, we're about to come back off the break. On the other side of the break.
And I was going straight to Dwight McKee because I know that he's got to leave. From Dwight McKee, I was going to go to Daryl and Aaron.
Now, Dwight, are you going to be able to come back or no?
No. Let me make.
Okay, now hold on. We're coming out.
We're
coming out.
All right.
Back in just over a minute.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we'll be in a minute. 1 minute. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we are going to talk about why there's this push to get the African leaders to the White House. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Walter, I promise you, I hear you. We're going to talk about that. And now they want Africa to join the G20 Union. I mean, please, Africa provides all of the resources that the West use to live every day. And Western European wealth, American wealth, it comes from Africa. It comes from the global South. They're not the debtors. They're the creditors. Remember that. That's why they need to get out from under the IMF and the World Bank, who enslave them economically. It's a terrible thing. So we're going to talk about that, Walter, tomorrow. Trust me. Okay?
Stand by, about to come back.
Thank you.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, legal Q&A with CK. We've been talking about Brittany Griner. Why the hate? The cheers have turned into jeers. Why? Is it because she's black? Is it because she's gay? Is it because she's a woman? Is it because of all three? Or have we gotten the full story about Paul Whelan? We talked about that yesterday, but CK, take it away.
If there were ever terms such as brilliant strategist, brilliant activist, someone who has a vision beyond others, it would be describing none other than Dwight McKee.
Yes.
He's one of our guests today, and we really would like to hear his opinion, his thoughts based on his years of experience. We stand on his shoulders. And Dwight, I know you have to leave, but please let us know your perspective on this because you're always spot on. You call things, you say things we don't want to hear, but you're always spot on with your analysis, and we love it.
Thank you, CK. He says things we don't want to hear.
Well, I think on the marriage issue, I think Clarence Thomas wants to challenge the constitutionality of interracial marriage because he's looking for a way out. I think that he looked at that crazy white woman on the other side of the bed.
You leave him alone. He's just as happy.
Should this be legal? Can somebody bail me out of this one?
Oh, Lord, help me.
Is this really legal? Can somebody pull me out of this one, brother? Will you vote me on out?
You know what? He just upended everything you said about him, CK. Just rescind it, girl.
I love it. I love it. He speaks to the cow. Go ahead, Dwight McKee.
Oliver says you got to name a bigger thing, beloved, and he just did that.
Oh, David.
We go back to 1950. And on the Britney issue, real quickly, and then I have to run. Because I think that people are upset not because of so much of a race. I think that does play a role, and the agenda and all that does play a role. But I think that a lot of people are upset because they really do believe that it was at least the Republicans, at least the pretext is, that it was unequal negotiation, that they exchanged a global terrorist for a basketball player, and that Russia had all of the chips, and they played them. I think that, Biden had to play the chips he was dealt with, but the Russians was dealing the cards, and that they were able to keep a spy, which is a good chance that Paul is, with full passports, and maintain that and renegotiate some other folk for him. But they were able to, because of the social pressure and the prestige of Brittany, able to exchange her for a major, major, major arms dealer during a time of war. And so, in many ways, they got the benefit of the best part of that deal. And I think that's what a lot of people are upset with. Now, her being black and an athlete and gay and whatever kind of word you want to use there, married to a woman, I think all they did play a role in antagonism, because I don't think they would have acted that way if they was negotiating for Brett Favre or for a major white athlete. I think there'd have been a celebration, much more of a celebration, if they'd been getting, one of those guys out. But the fact of the matter is, it really comes down to an unequal negotiation.
Wow. CK?
Well, Daryl Jones has been fighting for voting rights, for civil rights. He's an extraordinary lawyer, and who has been talking about this issue as well as he's fighting and played a major role in the outcome of the recent Senate elections in Georgia. Yay. Daryl, what is your perspective? I just have to throw that in there. What is your perspective on this? As the chair of Transformative Justice Coalition, I know you all are on point on many of these issues, domestically and internationally.
Yeah, well, good morning, CK, and thank you for that. I listened to Dwight McKee, really closely with things that he lays out, and he always brings such an interesting perspective with regards to most issues, national and international. And needless to say, Dr. Special David Johns always brings a really great analysis with regard to the love aspect and loving who you love. Dr. Special.
There you go.
But I tell you, one of the things that Dwight picked up on that I think is really key is that when we're looking at the Brittany Griner situation and the exchange that went on, the question was, is it because she's black? Is it because she's a woman? Is this misogynistic? Is this about an athlete? Is this about her being gay? And I asked this question: do you think we would have the same conversation if it was Christy Tolliver from the WNBA that was in that Russian prison and they negotiated her release with the same conditions that they did with Brittany Griner? And I think that the answer to that question is no. I don't think we're talking about Paul Whelan if we're talking about the release of Christy Tolliver as opposed to Brittany Griner. And arguably, Christy Tolliver is a very popular WNBA athlete. I don't think that we have that same conversation. So I think then you start looking at the racial aspect of this and asking that question. When we start to look at the layers that exist with the Paul Whelan situation, the 4 passports, the bad conduct discharge from the U.S. Marines that his parents didn't know about that we're stealing U.S. government funds and all this other stuff. When you start looking at all these layers, and it just seems that the deeper you go into the Paul Whelan piece, that there's a lot that's there. Not saying that any of it is accurate or inaccurate, but saying there's a lot that's there. The only thing that exists with the Brittany Griner piece is this allegation of her having some marijuana that was used to reduce inflammation and stuff from her playing basketball. So when we look specifically at that and say that, had this been Christy Tolliver and not Brittany Griner, with the reaction to the release or failure of the administration to gain the release of Paul Whelan along with Brittany Griner been the same? And I think that the answer to that is no. So, I think that we really begin to look at the racial aspect of this, certainly, the sexual orientation aspect of it, and as well as the prestige that's there. So, in my view of it, I applaud the administration for what it was able to do. And I, certainly, give kudos to the administration for continuing to fight for the release of Paul Whelan. They haven't let it go. They just realized that there's more to it to try to get him out than there would be to gain the release of Brittany Griner. So I certainly applaud the administration on that.
I mean, cannabis and 4 passports? Are you serious right now? I don't know who he is. I don't. I just know that all that's interesting. But I know you're going to. I know you're going to Aaron. Huh?
I'm going to Aaron. Got to hear from Aaron because Aaron, of course, is brilliant. We know she's brilliant. She has the benefit of being a political strategist and activist.
And then David,
she's a grassroots person. But
that's right.
And yes.
And then she's going to pivot back to you because it's a whole lot.
Ooh. A brilliant lawyer. So I want to hear from Aaron, and then we'll pivot back.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, CK. Good morning to this wonderful panel. Thank you for having me. And I do want to talk about the status of Brittany Griner and how, as a Black queer woman, out of all of the marginalized within the LGBTQ community, we know that Black queer women are targeted more than any other portion of that population. If you're transgendered, it goes up much higher. So there is an element of this at play here, especially when we look at the reception that this news is receiving at home. Santita, you shared a story that went around yesterday about a game in Utah, Salt Lake City, where this was the example of NBA fans and basketball fans booing the release of Brittany Griner when it was announced over.
I mean, and wait a minute. Let me just put a carrot in here. Black NBA players catch the devil in Utah. I mean, there's just a history of it. I don't know what's going on out there because I've recorded out there and I've had a great time, but they have a hard time. You've seen, was it Russell Westbrook has gotten into fights because of how his wife has been verbally attacked and almost physically attacked. But please continue. I just think it's important to give that context.
I think it is important, right? And this is the reality of the climate in the United States of America right now. And it is also interesting to see folks playing Monday morning quarterback / diplomat this week, and thinking that there is a public understanding of the nuances of this negotiation. And I agree with Robert and Dwight and our special doctor this morning, that Dr. Special, that there is a reality to these negotiations, that you're dealt a hand and you have to react, right? Russia, I believe, probably saw an opportunity, and they take high-level citizens, and when given the opportunity, they were able to arrest her for something that we would think is a non-issue in many ways. But let's pivot back and talk about how we're looking at cannabis legislation and how that's enforced disproportionately in Black and brown communities, and oftentimes is used as a pretext in our own LGBT rights movement, right? People were targeted at underground clubs, at bars, cited for drug use, This is not a new tactic that we see. So we have to take a hard look at our own policies, our own regulations around something as simple as cannabis for a very real condition of inflammation and the tough things that her body has gone through to be one of the best basketball players, not female basketball players, but one of the best basketball players in the world. And so there's many different levels to this, but I think the underlying racial anti-LGBT tones in this country, and this is why we need the act that President Biden signed yesterday that guarantees folks the ability to marry whomever they love and whomever they want in every state in the United States, because there is still a strong element against even interracial marriage in this country. You think it's wild to say such things, but think about how strong the debate was for and against gay marriage not even 10, 15 years ago. We have not come to a place in our laws, nor in our enforcement, and certainly not within the soul of this nation, to have real acceptance. And we have to codify those protections in. And it is necessary. And I applaud the administration. I applaud the activists that have been working towards this for many, many years, because they understand that these rights are under attack. So we have progress, and we are also going to have the same visceral pushback from folks in this fascist white supremacist movement that see any gain, like yesterday, as a further assault on this potential values, right? So we may see some backlash against this.
David Jones, you Dr. Special, you've been waiting to jump in. Look, you stepped into the crew.
I think he was hyperventilating.
I think he was, but CK, you have to let him know he stepped into the family now. So all bets are off.
And that's why I said Dr. Special. I heard you hyperventilating in the background. Listen, let's go. So wait, 3 quick things related to that. Yesterday was important, and it was a stopgap. There are still states in this country that do not recognize same-sex relationships. It is also important for us to pass the Equality Act to ensure that there are consistent and clear non-discrimination protections. I can be kicked out of a rideshare because my nails are painted, or I'm sitting next to my partner because that is not contemplated or was not contemplated when the Civil Rights Act of '64 was codified. So I want to be clear that that was a response to this rogue Supreme Court. Again, Brother Thomas, who wants to get out of his marriage, possibly I should not call him brother either, because all my kinfolk ain't my kinfolk. The point is a stopgap, and we still have an obligation to pass the Equality Act. 2, related to that, there have been more than 300 anti-LGBTQ pieces of legislation proposed across the country.
No, say that one more time. Slow down.
There have been more than
what?
There have been more than 300 anti-LGBTQ bills proposed by Republicans across the country, the vast majority of which, at least 130 of them, target transgender people specifically. There has been a 41% increase in reported hate crimes. What I always think about this is the FBI statistic doesn't account for the fact that Black folks don't often run to the police. And so we should understand that that's an undercount. Every year since I have had the pleasure of leading the National Black Justice Coalition, it's been the deadliest year on record for Black trans women, to the point that my sister just made. And we've seen in the last year over 100 attacks at shows because there are Republican fear-mongers telling people that queer people, in particular, folks that drag and trans folks, are attempting to groom folks simply because it turns out they're voting base. So I want to paint a bigger picture. I think I appreciate the conversation we've had about Brittany, and there are larger geopolitical issues concerning attacks against LGBTQIA folks that we don't have conversations about enough, in part because too often Black LGBTQIA plus folks like Brittany or myself are rendered invisible unless and until we are in positions of danger like the one that she found herself in. The last thing for me is there are so many people who have never read a foreign policy brief in their life, who have never been to law school, who don't even understand what it's like to engage in UPLing, who don't even read articles with footnotes, who now fashion themselves experts.
I question often if there are ever a fair trade. I can't think of many that happen outside of movies. But at some point, some of us some more of us rather have to trust people who do work and have demonstrated an ability to show up and use expertise to move things for our country and for democracy.
Mic drop on that. And we have to track those laws, CK, as a way through our system. I mean, because we're watching a pushback against, you know what, Dr. Special, Dr. David Johns, we love you, and attorneys Connolly, Ann Jones, and attorney C.K. Hoffler. You know, Reverend Jackson reminds us that this is a right-wing country. It's a right-wing country. So we've always had to push back against these right-wing impulses that we have, CK. And this fight is just part of it. But you know what I couldn't think about? You know, I am a tennis fanatic, period. I have been since I was a child. I think of Maria Sharapova, the great Russian player. She was number one for some time. For, you know, maybe, I remember for about 6-7 months, she had quite a run. But she was never Serena or Venus, because they came into prominence at the same time. But she far outdistanced Venus and Serena, individually, certainly, and together. I mean, together, in terms of her endorsements. I mean, this blonde, you know, tall, lithe, and she is, you know, just beautiful, objectively beautiful. But there was some discussion about that. And I wonder, you know, given that Brittany presents as someone who, 6'8", her voice is full of bass. She presents in a way that is not, say, it's not feminine, just to use my own terms, Dr. Johns and everyone here. I just think that all of that is part of it, because, you know, we are a looks-driven world.
We are, Santita. And, you know, Santita, we've had this discussion fairly recently in terms of politics, you know, relative to Stacey Abrams. And all of that, you just throw that into the pot of all the reasons why there's this backlash. I think everybody on this amazing panel has come through with a perspective that's unique. And then, you know, we now have a doctor special who is driving I just have to do that. Who's really given a brilliant analysis. I mean, I'm saying that jokingly, but his analysis, absolutely brilliant and magnificent, on point. So all of these factors drive the legal analysis to a case, because this is legal Q&A, but oftentimes the law is just a vehicle to be able to do something that's political. And that is exactly what I believe has happened in this case. Certainly going into a country, playing basketball for years, in a country as her second gig, where she understood and knew, her eyes were wide open, that this was not an LGBTQ plus friendly country, period, end of discussion. Not in its current iteration. This is no longer the Soviet Union, not in its current iteration.
Yeah, because, you know, because they are officially an Orthodox Christian nation.
Country.
So, you know, there's that.
That was all known. In addition to the fact that she's going to stand out everywhere, anywhere, all the time, 100% of the time, in a crowd. And there's always some xenophobia wherever you go, wherever you travel, whatever country. And probably some resentment of some of the local athletes that here they have to bring in these big, tall Black women to help the teams, the local or domestic teams, to victory. There are a lot of subtleties, because I think for sure we don't really know the facts. And if she actually did or didn't do that, the facts remain irrelevant, because the law was just a vessel for a political determination. The most they thought she would have gotten would have been 5 years. She got 9 years. And the craziest scenario, I remember doing an analysis between Russian law and U.S. law on these issues. This was for sure a minor infraction, but nevertheless an infraction. And so, and if it's true, I'm not even sure it's true. I mean, imagine a scenario where she was set up. Imagine a scenario she pled to save her life, as she said. So we may never know what really happened, because there might be some confidentiality or restrictions on what she can talk about. And we have to bear in mind that that could be the case. But I think for Brittany Griner, I salute her and thank her for what she represents, and for opening up a discussion which we've had here on the show, but we need to really have, about why women athletes have to, when they have comparable skills to their counterparts, male athletes, have to have a second gig 3/4 of the way across the world to survive and to support their families. And that's the issue. Equal pay for similar work. So there are many, many things that can be unpacked here. That was not a factor, of course, I believe in what happened to her in Russia, but it's a fact that we need to look at here in the United States.
Absolutely.
Associated with that. And for those owners of these NBA teams that own both the male teams and the female teams, they need to think about that.
Absolutely.
Because there could be another Brittany Griner around the corner. There might be another Brittany Griner.
But they're still going.
Public attention.
They're still going to Europe. They're still going to. They're still going to Russia. And you know what? And they should. And they should go under advisement. They need to know what they need to watch out for. Don't talk to. Be very, very careful with people because folks plant things on you. All kinds of things happen, and particularly when you're in a country with whom we are basically in a proxy war. That's a fact. So, but we have to give a big shout out to Mrs. Sherelle Griner, who, she fought for her wife. She fought for her life. And she just stepped to the fore. And, she's a teacher. I have special love for teachers. And
she's a teacher and she's a law student, by the way.
Wait a minute, she finished law school, right? So she's a lawyer now.
So, I'm not sure she's a lawyer. I think she's maybe.
I don't know if she's an attorney, right? But I think I think she finished law school in the midst of all of this.
Okay.
Yeah. Look,
she went to North Carolina Central, HBCU Law School. Just by the way.
Well, is that where Willie Gary went to school?
That's where Willie Gary went to school. So absolutely.
I think she knows how to plead a case.
She knows how to plead a case.
She knows how to plead a case.
There are many dynamics that can be unpacked.
I was so impressed with her. I thought just her arguments, her comportment, everything she did. Brittany Griner needs to know that her wife had her back and she was represented beautifully. But you know what? If everyone, I know you got to run CK, Dr. Johns, Dr. Special, and Attorney Aaron Connolly and Attorney Jones. But I'd like for you all to give some comments on Facebook Live on the other side, just as we close everything out. But everybody, just reach out to your representatives so we can protect our same gender loving brothers and sisters. The LGBTQ, IA, I'm trying to get everything right, and just all you have to do is correct me, Dr. Special. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to just let me know. Just let me know that I am in the mix. But I love you, everybody. Legal Q&A with CK. When will you be on? Very quickly, CK, I got about 10 seconds. When will you be on Court TV?
Thursday. Today is Wednesday, so I'll be on Thursday morning.
Okay, all right, everybody. And let Court TV know that you want to see more of Attorney CK Hoffler. Is there a show in her future on Court TV? Well, let's put it out there. Love you, everybody. We're out. Oh, hey, why not put it out there? How about that?
I know, and for me, it's always a struggle with time. As you know, it's always a struggle.
Then you'll just struggle with time.
Where do I send my letter asking for CK to have her own show on Court TV? That's all I need to know.
Court TV. Send it to Court TV. Seriously, I'm not joking. Each letter, they say, okay, that's X number of viewers. And you have to let people know, I like her. The only reason we can stay on the air is because of popularity. If people are not listening to us, if they're not watching us, we don't get to stay on the air. I can call each of you because each of you are liked by the audience. If my audience do not like you, I got to let you go. I love you.
Yeah.
But I even said that's just sweetest numbers. My mother is CK. I don't know if you've ever met her, Dr. Johns, but my mother, Shelley, will tell you she keeps it 100 all the time. Okay. And so, you know what? I just want to get CK. I want to get some closing thoughts. I know you're running.
Absolutely.
Some closing thoughts
running.
from each of you today. CK, or do you? CK, why don't you guide this? So you call on Dr. Special and the marathoner and the beauty queen.
That I was going to start with Dr. Special. and we say that affectionately.
because that is. I really say that we say that affectionately and in recognition of your brilliance.
Absolutely, and that's what we do. We needle each other all the time. He's part of the family now, so you gonna get it.
Listen, we all know how to play the dozen, and I receive it in the spirit of Soleil, who talked about in her village in West Africa the term lesbian gate didn't exist, but the term gatekeeper did. So for me, special is a synonym for gatekeeper, and I celebrate all of that and really appreciate making space to have conversations that we don't have often enough to ensure that all Black people, regardless of their social self-identity, the social constructs that people place upon them, or the circumstances that we find ourselves in because of the matrix of domination that allows white supremacy to be omnipresent and yet hyper invisible, so that all of us can be free. So I'm thankful for everybody who engaged in this conversation and who listened to it.
Well, you know, and I'm just grateful that you want to be a part of this conversation and so many others, because there's so many issues that are coursing at one time. And, you know, we find that Americans throw away 30 to 40% of our food. Hunger is real in America, and I want you to be part of that conversation. I want us to get out of our silos. That is what we try to do here on this show. We pull everybody out of our silos, and we look around and we see that we have everything in common. First, we're trying to survive on this planet and thrive on this planet together. That's the only way it's going to work. And so, you know, I'll be calling you in the next couple of days about something else that might not. You can find the LGBTQIA element in any conversation, but the fact is, I want you to talk about hunger. You know,
right, and much like a lot of other people,
you do all that.
I spent years on Capitol Hill, exactly as a policy expert, really focused on ensuring that Black people are able to thrive. The LGBTQ lens is just another lens, and the sisters on the call know that, right? Like that's how intersectionality shows up.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
You can do all things.
So,
Yeah,
Dr. Special, you're part of it. CK, we got a good name for him. That's good.
I know. I like that. I love it. Daryl Jones, what are your closing thoughts?
Thank you, CK. Again, I really think that the whole perspective that is being brought in on Brittany Griner and the sexuality and the race aspect of it, it's one of the things I've got to do is I've got to just say thank you and congratulations to the members of the WNBA that stood up and kept it in the forefront, the members of the NBA that stood with the sisters and keeping Brittany Griner's story out there, the members of the press, everyone that was out there just pushing to keep that story alive and awake. And of course, special thanks to her wife for all that she's done to keep that out there. I mean, you gotta just, say kudos and congratulations for a job extremely well done. And it's something that, I think goes underappreciated. And to hear, Dr. Special talk about the commitment that's coming from the LGBTQ community to gather behind really Brittany Griner and all of the efforts that are going there. Just kudos to the entire effort. And I think this is the result of what happens when community works together. And we have certainly a president that's willing to do what's necessary and listen to the community. So I think that oftentimes we get caught up in talking about how much more could have been gained. But, I come with the perspective, and I'll close with the remarks that, sometimes you got to just, recognize the award, recognize the efforts and what you have accomplished as a community. And I think this is one of those moments where we've got to recognize what was accomplished as a progressive community.
Aaron, you still there?
I am still here and wanted to use my final thoughts to just hold some space for all of the folks that are, maybe looking into the holiday season and not super excited about it. I was part of a board for an organization called the Queer Christian Fellowship. And what this organization does is it gives folks tools and conversation starters, whether they are talking to family members who may not be open to who they are as LGBTQIA Americans, or if there's parents who are looking for resources to empower their child and take the opposite approach that we see many in the Christian community take, which is one of division and separation and turning their backs on their brothers and sisters as opposed to embracing them with love. So this holiday season, I want to hold some space for folks that are processing these types of injustices, that are looking at the booze for Brittany Griner and processing it as something that they are feeling because they've experienced something similar in their own life. And then looking at the hope that we had yesterday at the White House with increased protections for LGBTQ Americans. So I want to be able to be mindful of that, to recognize that many people are going into tough family situations and they're not always loving and empowering as they should be. So just holding a bit of space for that, and doing a shout out to my the organization I had the honor of being a part of, which is the Queer Christian Fellowship, who has some great resources as you or your loved ones are navigating some of these difficult family conversations this holiday.
Amen to that. Well, you know, Jesus came to heal the brokenhearted. And that's everybody. Everybody's got a broken heart. And we're all brothers and sisters, sisters and brothers, and they, them, she, him, us, all of that. We're all children of the same God. You know, whether even if you're not a believer, we are all on this. We share this planet. We are all family. That's what we are, and we have to begin to act that way, everybody. That's the only way we're going to make it. That's one of the great lessons I got pledging. You know, you're not going to cross into this sisterhood or into this brotherhood until the weakest person on your line can get through. And that's really the way it ought to be in life. And that's the way it actually is. No one is safe until everybody is safe. No one is free until everybody is free. And my mother puts it this way, CK and Dr. Special and Attorney Connolly, Beauty Queen, and the marathoner, Attorney Jones. She said, you know, I'm as happy as my unhappiest child. You would know something about that, Aaron and CK. She said, whoever my unhappiest child is, that's where I am. And I'm not right until they're right. It's just, she said, that's just how it is. And that's the way it is. And that's the way it is in this world, CK. Until everybody feels safe and content, protected, you can't feel good. You can't. CK, you got the final word, my dear sister.
What I would say to Brittany Griner and her family, I'm so happy that you're reunited. To this country, though, I think we need to take a look and step back at what this means. And when we speak hatred, when we speak resentment, when we speak oppression, it becomes part of the fabric of this country. And so I think that this is a good example. It's a great opportunity for us to sit back and examine why we feel the way we feel and try to recalibrate and turn that around to continue to build a stronger country. Because we are under attack on so many levels, but we are under attack internally. We're a divided country. And the resentment and the feelings and the thoughts that are coming out relative to the securing of an American citizen who is in a penal colony in a hostile nation, the resentment is a mere reflection of our internal divisions in this country. So I want us to think about that and just and remember that the legal framework, the law, is a vessel so that the political message can be delivered. And that's what happened in the case of Brittany Griner.
Well, you know, and remember, the penal colony is not that far from who and where we are, because guess what? she was going to be sewing, but her hands were too big. She couldn't fit at the machine. Because, you know, our prisoners make private product, clothing, and the like for private corporations. They're treated inhumanely. They're the ones who fight the forest fires, the jungle fires in California. That's what they do. And they're not paid in. When they try to unionize, they get put in solitary confinement. They get put in the hole. So we got to think about that as they're pulling education out of the prisons. That is where Malcolm X was educated, everybody. You got a lot of great scholars, a lot of great minds who didn't get the opportunity to learn on the outside. They're able to learn in the prison, becoming more productive, whether they're inside or outside the prison. That's what needs to happen. I remember when my brother Jesse, who is a trained lawyer, when he started basically holding legal clinics when he was in prison, and he got put in the hole. And they didn't tell us. Remember that, CK? They didn't tell us they put him in the hole. But the prisoners liked him so much, it took them several days, but they finally got the word out. And then you were able to get him out of the hole. You know, we are all responsible for each other, everybody. We're all responsible. We are our brothers and sisters keepers. We are. And I love you all. I love you, CK. Dr. Special, I love you. Wait a minute, everybody. Say we love you to Dr. Special. Say, come on. Give it to him.
We love you, Dr. Special.
We love you, Dr. Special.
I love y'all too. Have an amazing day.
No, he is like, I'm not coming back to this crate, this lunatic factory.
I look forward to it.
I can't wait to have you back. And of course, that's my phone. So here I go. I love you all. I love you, Dr. Special. I love you, CK. I love you, Attorney Jones. I love you, Attorney Connolly. I love everybody. I love you, Morning Stars. See you tomorrow, God willing, on the Santita Jackson Show. Love you. Bye-bye.